What's up, everybody? It is December 27th, the Friday edition of the Daily Fantasy Insiders TV show, sponsored by DraftDay. I'm your host, David Kitchen. This song is for the one and only Michael Leone, who joined us on today's show. Michael hails from Roto Experts. You can find him at Leonum4444. He's the guy who wins all the tournaments, and he loves this song. And then you also have Dave Loughran, a.k.a. Laufey D, who writes the Friday article for us on FantasyInsiders.com. He is the man with the plan, rocking the Blue Jays hat.
Yeah, I like the hat. I don't like the team.
Yeah?
I like the
hat. I like the hat better.
I mean, we try to keep it American on this show.
Well, we're connected to them, right?
They're the closest Major League Baseball team to Buffalo, Dave.
There's no Buffalo baseball team?
I'm ignoring you.
I'm sure they'd be really great.
We got a AAA team.
Yeah, the Buffalo...
Bisons.
Yeah, the Buffalo Bisons.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's not Major League.
Are there buffalo in Buffalo?
At the zoo.
But, like, you've got the Sabres mascot. Isn't he a bison type character?
Yeah, I mean, there must have been at some point in time, because that's what all our mascots are. I mean, Billy the Buffalo.
It's like asking if there's lions in Detroit, Dave.
But no, are there multiple Lions teams in Detroit? No, it's Lions and Tigers. So, and Bears.
Oh my.
So it's like asking if there's a Wizard of Oz in Detroit. Anyways, we're getting off track here. Have a fun show today, and we are going to show you guys a pretty cool tool that we have here on Fantasy Insiders. Going to preview for you. It should be ready by next week, and it's something that you'll want to check out every day if you play daily NBA. So we want to also give a shout out to our sponsor, DraftDay. They just came out with the $100,000 DraftDay bracket tournament, so they'll be running qualifiers throughout the season. It'll be in March, and they also have a $25,000 tournament in February, a mid-season tournament, so that should be fun too. We'll talk more of that later, as well as the rapid fire. But since I have these two with me, first I want to talk about Buck Love. Buck Love is what it's all about, guys.
It's sweeping the industry.
Here's your 2 minutes. You'll have 2 minutes, and just get all your Buck Love out right now. I'll start with you, Dave, and then Mike, you can just fawn after Dave does.
Well, simply put, Dave, I think Buck Love has become an integral part of the show. And without Buck Love, what are we really? I mean, are people even going to watch us anymore if we don't mention the Bucks as much as we do? I mean, with all the news coming out of Milwaukee tonight, it's a phenomenal. It's a great blend of daily fantasy brilliance right now, and I'm just very excited to talk about them. And 2 minutes, I'm not sure is enough, but we'll see what we can do. And I think Mike has, plenty of ammunition right now in his arsenal, and we can take this show by storm.
I think we need to take Fantasy Insiders and just turn it into a Milwaukee Bucks fan site. I think that would be a better use of time.
Listen, you guys are trying as hard as you can, so I mean, we're already kind of halfway there.
And in all seriousness, the Bucks aren't as good value anymore because they're getting healthy guys back. We liked them because they were thin. We knew which guys were going to get minutes. Well, we thought we did until John Henson said he would play. But the only thing I'm looking at tonight, if you're over on Star Street, you want to be real risky. You've got Larry Sanders at the bare minimum. You've got Ersan at the bare minimum, which actually is a really good play over there. And I think he's interesting in some qualifiers. I'm not sure I would trust him on a main team.
Yeah, but Mike's right. With Butler back and Mayo back, and now Ilyasova back and Sanders back, it was fun while it lasted. And there were a lot of value plays for quite some time, even though they could kill you on some nights. But at this point, you're best to stay away from him. Even Brandon Knight, I know he's been playing real well, but he still concerns me on that team right now. Everyone concerns me on that team because they're so volatile. You have no idea what's going to happen on a nightly basis.
On DraftKings, I like Henson because his price hasn't. I think that might be a fun GPP play because people will be like, "Oh, Sanders is back. I'm not going to touch Henson." But I think his minutes will still be good, and most sites his price is adjusted. But on DraftKings, I think he needs around like low 30s to hit value, and his past 6 games he's scored at least 38 on DraftKings. So.
Right, and someone pointed out that Knight is 6,300, I think, on FanDuel, so it's hard to pass him up there.
Yeah, those are very site-specific, though. In general, like we're saying, across the industry, you're not really looking at the Bucks.
No.
The fact that you have talked about the Bucks so much means that you're on your way to becoming BFFs with Larry Drew, and that's really the only way that you can feel confident about playing Henson is if you are like in Larry Drew's inner circle of trust there, because we don't know. Like you say, people think that his Larry Sanders minutes going to be messing with Henson. They could. I mean, you have Urson and Sanders back, so it's not possible that Henson plays under 25 minutes tonight.
I mean, yeah, it's possible, but I'm just thinking very site-specific DraftKings that the price mitigates some of that risk, and you've got a ton of upside if they do still give them 30 minutes. If Udo won't play as much, Sanders might not steal as many of Henson's minutes as he does the other front court guys, and he's not going to play a ton the first night anyways.
Yeah, but let's be realistic here. We really don't know what's going to happen in Milwaukee, and that's the problem.
No. Right.
We have no idea what's going to happen. Anything can happen on a game-to-game basis, and it's not worth it, especially when they go down by 15 early in the first quarter and their starters don't play another minute. So, I'm not saying that's going to happen tonight in what should be a relatively close game, but they're not worth it with the amount of injuries going around the league and a lot of players, jumping into the starting spot at discounted prices that are going to make some great plays with better matchups, at better salaries.
Well, let's since we got the Bucks out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the big news of the day. People have posted about it already in chat. Russell Westbrook out until the All-Star break with a scope surgery on his knee. That just broke in the past 15 minutes. So
Russell,
that is obviously huge news, and obviously it also opens up the door for another value play tonight. And I think you know who that is going to be, Mr. Reggie Jackson. You love him, don't you? You love him, Leone, but not as much as Davis Maddock loves Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, Davis certainly has his man crushes like, Nick Young. But, Reggie Jackson's going to be a phenomenal play tonight. The only thing with him is, and he's definitely a discount everywhere, but he's not as much of a discount as sometimes guys that jump into starting roles because he's got such a solidified backup role anyways. But, I'll definitely have him on. I know I'm looking at the Draft Street qualifier right now, and he's 93.45. And, you almost have to play him at that price, at least if you're doing multi-entry.
Yeah, and when you look at someone like Reggie Jackson, I wrote a column the other night on strategy value plays, and this guy, he's filling in for Westbrook, who's second on the team in scoring, and he's attempting 20 shots a game. So when you're stepping into this role, you're going to be expected to facilitate. You're going to be expected to shoot. You're not just going to be a role player like Tolliver is, in New Orleans, or Charlotte. Either way, my point is that he's going to be expected to do a lot. So at a cheap price, you can easily, 40 fantasy points isn't out of the question tonight. So he should be a real interesting play, especially on sites where he's cheap.
Sorry for keeping the background music on. I can barely hear it, but I did hear some sort of female voice, and I was like, "Who is that?" Anyways, that's just how we roll on this show. Also, D Wade going to be out. Is that confirmed now that he's going to be out?
I think it's close to confirmed, but not confirmed.
Okay.
And Ray Allen's out too, so
Ray Allen's a game time decision unless you've seen anything other than
he's
that.
out. He's out.
I think they're pretty much both out, but no one has actually said they're out.
Well, I think it says Allen's been ruled out. So.
Okay, well, you're getting more up-to-date news than me. This is like the hour when all the news is breaking, apparently. They also have Birdman going to be missing or expected to miss tonight's game with a sore back. He didn't return in that Christmas game, and so it looks like the Heat are going to be a little thin tonight. Who does that open the door for in your mind, Mike?
Well, I mean, the obvious one is LeBron James.
Shane Battier? Oh, LeBron. Okay.
I mean, I know that's, like, obvious, but I know Dink wrote about him in today's rundown. He absolutely loves him, thinks he's the guy you want to target across every single site. He destroyed the Kings last year. This one's on the road with Wade out. It might be a little bit closer than the first matchup. And, you know, at least on a site like FanDuel where small forward usually kind of sucks, and their pricing's a little bit looser, I'll definitely be trying to fit him in. I generally stay away from the fill-in role player guys for the Heat because it's tough to tell exactly, you know, Shane Battier or someone like that, exactly who's going to get what minutes and what they'll even do with them.
Yeah, Battier's trash. You can't go near him. But LeBron's an awesome play tonight. I wrote about him too. He put up 80 fantasy points last year in one game against Sacramento. Granted, it was an overtime game. But on the flip side of that game, you look at DeMarcus Cousins tonight, who, if this game stays close, he could easily exceed 50 fantasy points. I love him tonight too.
I don't get why on DraftKings they just refuse to change Cousins' price. I pretty much just play him every time on DraftKings until
they do that with a lot of guys. I remember last
year
Larry Sanders was at 3,200 for about 2 months on DraftKings. While he was playing well, nobody changed him. And then he goes to like $9,000 in one day.
Yeah. Some other plays. Obviously, Mario Chalmers now in play. And that Chris Bosh play is interesting. Bosh had a really good game on Christmas Day. I'm not sure if you guys watched that game or not. But he typically, whenever guys are out, whenever Wade is out, he can become a nice play. I'd like it if he was a little more proactive on the boards, but I think Bosh and Chalmers in play. Beasley, that suggestion kind of makes my stomach curl a little bit.
I think the problem is that there's just a lot of good value plays across the industry tonight where I don't know if I'm going to force any Heat guys. I like Bosh better than Chalmers because of position, but even at center, you know, you've got guys like Chris Kaman and Mozgov that are real cheap tonight. Point guard, I think point guard, there's just other, you know, decent price guys with greater upside than Chalmers.
Yeah. On Christmas, I had Chalmers, Bosh, and Wade in every one of my lineups, but for me, those guys outside of Wade, they're very matchup specific type players. And I know it's not a tough matchup, but at the same time, they're not necessarily guys that I'm going to target tonight because Mike said it. There's a lot of plays out there you might pay a couple extra bucks for, but their upside far exceeds what Bosh and Chalmers have to offer tonight. And I like Bosh, but his inability to hit the boards really hurts him on a poor shooting night. So I'd probably go with value tonight with Kaman.
Yeah, and that's the other news. Kaman is starting for Pau Gasol, going to be out tonight. Kaman had, obviously, the past two games, he looks a little rough. But whenever Pau was out on Saturday night, I think it was Saturday night, because I switched Henson to Pau real quick on Saturday night, and it turned out neither was going to benefit me. So
That's awesome.
he was out on Saturday night, but he played 28 minutes and had, I think on Draft Street, had like close to 30 fantasy points. I'll pull up his logs real quick, but Kamen is a guy who's rather cheap, and if he can get close to 30 minutes tonight, he's another guy who I think is excellent value. And Dave, you just said it. Mike, do you agree? Are we all in on this pick?
Yeah, I'm in on Chris Kaman. I mean, I'm a little confused looking at the game log, how much he's played, but now that he's starting and Pow's out from the get-go, I think, they're going to find the minutes for him tonight. I mean, they just don't really have anybody to rebound besides him and Jordan Hill. So,
well, especially considering Hill's not getting the minutes that he was,
Yeah,
and that's kind of an issue too, because I really would have liked to have plugged him into some lineups, and I probably still will on sites where he's cheap. But if Hill was still logging those 35, 37 minutes that he was a couple weeks ago, he would be a top must-play option tonight. Lock him in every lineup, but he isn't. Actually, real quick, the reason I like Kaman so much is because if you look at what Utah has allowed to centers in the past 15 games, it's mind-blowing, Dave. I mean, they're allowing 6 more fantasy points than any other team per game in that span. 6 more or 7 more or even 8, I think, more points per game. They're allowing just wild numbers across the board to centers. So I just think that anyone who plays at that position tonight for Los Angeles is going to have definitely yield productive results.
Yeah, there you can see his game logs, and came in obviously 7.5 points. Didn't even play on Christmas, but then against Golden State had 10 points and 17 rebounds. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, his per minute production I think is fine. So he's gonna get. Well, I mean, D'Antoni, like Larry Drew, he's kind of tough to trust. But I think we see upper 20s minutes for Kaman tonight, which is more than enough to play him almost across the board.
Yeah, minimum salary on our sponsor, DraftDay. You've got to have him in there, in my opinion, and then spend elsewhere. You also have the situation in Denver where Kenneth Faried not going to be playing tonight. And you also have Jordan Hamilton, who is going to be taking over Randy Foye's position. Jordan Hamilton's price is decreased around the industry, so he could be an excellent high-ceiling GPP sort of play. But thoughts on that front court situation for the Nuggets tonight? Are you going to go with Mozgov? Anybody?
If he's cheap, sure. He put a double-double up the other night. He played, I think, 31, 32 minutes. So, look, if Mozgov can log 30 minutes, he's an excellent value play. He might even be, I don't want to say more advisable than Kaman, but if they play the same minutes, I definitely think Mozgov has the upside there. If you look at what he's done this year, he's had some monster games, and that's been in limited playing time. So you can't expect the guy to play 40 minutes because that's not what they do in Denver, and it's really frustrating. But, yeah, I still think he's worth a shot. Even if he's a little bit more expensive than you'd like, if he's still cheaper than most of the other options, he's worth it. FanDuel, he's $3,900, so it's hard to ignore him there.
Mike?
Yeah, tonight's a night where FanDuel's lack of utility is annoying because you've got Mozgov at, like 3,900 and then Kaman at 4,400, and you can only play one. I think I'm leaning Kaman, but I got to think about it some more. But Mozgov, if you look the last 3 games on Draft Street where he's played 30 or more minutes, he's put up 38, 47, and 27 Draft Street points. So even in his worst game there, he's hit value at his salary at $10,500. So even with his salary being, I think it's probably higher on Draft Street relative to most sites, and even there, he looks like a good chance to hit value. I like him a lot tonight. I think him and Kaman are the best value plays at center.
Yeah, he is. As far as value plays, I really like him. Now, is tonight a night where you guys are going to spend on your guards or your big men?
I'm going to spend on power forward, I think.
Anthony Davis, is that who you're going to spend on?
Yeah, Anthony Davis, and a game we sort of talked about, Derek Favors is like middle of the pack price, and I love him tonight.
Me too. I like everyone on Utah, to be honest with you. I think Gordon Hayward, he's been inconsistent, but the dude's upside is off the charts right now. And he's pretty cheap on most sites, but favors on DraftStreet, like Mike said. What is he, 13? I think like 13.3 or something. Yeah, great.
He's 6,600 on FanDuel, 13 something on DraftStreet.
Yeah, he's a great play, and I think what I'll probably do with my spending is I'll probably go big at point guard at one position, and then go mid range there with like a Trey Burke, and then shooting guard maybe like an Eric Bledsoe or Tyreek Evans is an awesome play tonight, I think. So you have guys like that, a lot of really good mid range plays tonight, and I might spend on LeBron. So there's a lot of mid range that can make up for that.
Yeah. Especially on position-specific sites, LeBron is definitely in play because we hate that small forward position. You can get value elsewhere, so I don't mind that at all, especially since his salary is down. Tyreek Evans, you talked about. Eric Gordon going to be out tonight. You look at Gordon, Tyreek Evans had coming off a monster game, and the only place I really do not like him is DraftStreet. Because his price is just way too high there, $15K. So he would have to have another monster game for that to happen. But point guards. John Wall is a guy that Dave, you talked about you kind of liking for tournaments and upside. I'm right there with you. I like Wall. Who are some of the other point guards that you guys like tonight?
There's a couple. Go ahead.
I mean, to piggyback on one that Dave already said, I mean, I'm playing Trey Burke, I think, everywhere, given his price is at a very good point. He's only 10,000 on DraftStreet. He's in the 6,000s on FanDuel. What's he at on DraftDay, Dave? I think he's pretty cheap there as well. But, I mean, he's a huge upside player. We've seen a little bit of inconsistency with him, but then you throw him in a matchup against the Lakers, who are just, a very fast-paced team that can't guard point guards. That's a perfect matchup. That's what we always say about Philadelphia, too. Lakers, you get the same thing. I think they are 27th in the NBA in defensive efficiency against point guards. In terms of pace, they are 4th in the NBA in pace. So you're going to get a Utah team, they're 27th in pace. So they're playing way up in pace. And I love teams that are playing up in pace. We had an example of that the other night. I forget which team it was, but like a bunch of guys hit value because they normally play at a slow pace. They were playing up against a fast-paced team. So Trey Burke, I love tonight.
Yeah, he's 87.50 on DraftDay. So is Mario Chalmers, but if you're having to pick, I like Chalmers for sure.
That's not even close to me. That's not even close for me.
Oh,
that's not even close.
Oh,
I would take Trey Burke 100 times out of 100 over Chalmers in this one because his home splits are off the charts compared to his away splits. This guy, he put up 37 fantasy points against Indiana the other week. I don't think it's close. I think a guy like Chalmers, who's not an integral role even in the Miami offense, and then you have a guy like Trey Burke in Utah, who in what should be a close game at home should have all the ball handling duties. He should facilitate. He should fire off a ton of shots. I don't think it's close, but that's just my opinion, Dave. So to each his own.
Did I say that Chalmers was going to be more of a play than Burke?
Yes.
Oh, that was me. That was a mistake then.
Oh, okay.
Backpedal. Why don't you, Dave? Backpedal.
Okay, sure, Kitchen.
I misspoke because I like Burke tonight. I have him in cash games on 2 different sites already, so I'm not trading him out for Chalmers. Just mentioning that they were the same price. More so if you wanted to play both of them on DraftDay, you definitely could. Jordan Farmar, another guy at the point guard position who is going to get minutes. It came out before his game on Christmas that they were going to play him in 5-minute spurts. I think he ended up playing like 33 minutes.
But he did nothing.
He did do nothing. You're right. He did do nothing. But you have to think that he's going to get the rust off. He was trying to do stuff. And I think that he's a pretty good value tonight for that point guard spot. There's just lots of value at that point guard spot. So maybe maybe you spend at the shooting guard and small forward spots. You talked about Bledsoe. I really like Bledsoe tonight going up against Golden State. Klay Thompson, another guy who kind of got on board Christmas night and hit over 30 fantasy points, I think. Another decent option in a game that should be fun to watch back and forth. What was that motion that you were giving, Mike? It was like a hey.
Fly in front of his face.
You mentioned a player that, Thompson at shooting guard. I don't know. I just think there's other guys like Gordon Hayward on FanDuel, Tyreek Evans that I would rather play against versus a pure shooter. I mean, I've defended Thompson before, but now that Iggy's back, his assists won't be there, and I think there's other better shooting guards. So I was waving off Thompson.
This is a weird night, though, because there are more shooting guard position. There are more players at the shooting guard position that I like than ever. I can't remember the last time where I scrolled down the list of shooting guards, say on FanDuel, where they're strictly limited to one position, and I scroll through them and I say I like him, I like him, I like him. Usually I have to find one of them that I like, and I usually begrudgingly play him. So it's kind of an interesting night from that perspective, and I think you can actually make some pretty interesting lineups now that we actually have some options at the position.
Yeah, I mean tonight's going to be one of those fun nights where you can go just a variety of different ways, and there's some different qualifiers and tournaments out there that if you're making multiple lineups, you can just basically choose which way you want to go. You want to go cheap on point guard, you want to go cheap on your big men, you want to spend on small forward or shooting guard, you can. And so it looks like tonight's going to be a high-scoring night. Tons of guys are going to reach value. It's just a matter of these are the nights where every player you play has to hit value if you want to take down something. Like, you can't have a bust. On Christmas night, someone had like Boozer and still won, I think, the big Draft Street tournament. You can't have that tonight, I don't think. You've got to have everybody who just goes off and hits value. Speaking of value, in a few minutes, we will be getting to a tool that we're going to roll out. Before that, I want to get to some of the comments in the chat. If you have any questions or comments for us, feel free to leave them in the chat. Al Smizzle says Love and Josh Smith or LeBron and David Lee.
Oh,
LeBron and David Lee.
I'm going. Man, yeah, I think because of the situation in Miami now, I'm going to go with LeBron and David Lee. But if that Wade and Allen news hadn't broke, I think I would have gone with Love and Josh Smith. Josh Smith's been playing great lately. I love him tonight, actually. He has a good matchup. You
love him?
Look, for the price, he's super cheap on a lot of sites. I think he's a good play. I mean, if you look at his fantasy lines, Dave, the guy's put up 37 or more fantasy points in like 5 or 6 straight games.
I was saying Love because Love.
I think that went over my head, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, let me
wasn't
finish.
Very smooth of you, was it? Oh man, I would definitely go the safe side with LeBron and David Lee. However, I think the ceiling is on the other side.
Yeah, for sure.
Because with Jay Smoove, they have been going to him to start out the game, and he's like, if you look at his last handful of games compared to how he started the season, it's like night and day. That being said, there's certainly the chance that he puts up a dud. So I think the ceiling is there, but the safe side is with LeBron and D Lee. D Lee gets you those hustle points. There's a little bit of discussion about Vooch and Drummond, and a lot of people have Vooch high. Other people think that Drummond's size, being bigger, more athletic than Vooch, kind of limits Vooch's upside. And on the other side, you have Drummond, who people are targeting. If you had to pick one, who would it be, Vooch or Drummond, Dave?
I'm actually, neither of them are on my radar tonight. Not to say that they're bad plays, but I think I would go with Drummond just because his upside's been a little better than Vucevic lately, and I always go when I'm in a dilemma like that. I'm always going to go with the upside, potential upside. But if you saw that number I pulled, Smith is averaging more shots per game over his last 6 starts than Drummond and Monroe combined. So, I mean, not that Drummond really has plays drawn up for him, but him and Monroe are fading into the background a little bit on the offensive side of the ball right now.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I think with Mozgov and Kamen out there, I probably won't be spending on either of these two, except for in like maybe a secondary qualifier team. I think they're both okay value plays. I don't dislike either of them for the price. I just other cheaper guys I like more that I think are more conductive to better roster construction. But if I had to pick, I think I'd also side with Drummond's upside.
Yeah, I go Drummond as well. Real quick, I'll answer a few of these questions, and then we'll move on. Thoughts on Jordan Hamilton? Like I said earlier, I really like Jordan Hamilton. I think that he is not a cash game player per se, but is a tournament player where he has lots of upside. He has struggled shooting, but if he can put together a decent shooting game with the other stats that he gets and his athleticism, then I think for where his price is, he's a decent play. However, for cash games, there are safer, more valuable plays out there. Chalmers or Reggie Jackson, I think I would go Reggie. Teletovic or Jordan Hamilton. Give me, I don't know. I'll go to Dave on this one.
Give me Telly, only because I know that he's going to play 30 minutes. The only reason he didn't play big minutes last game was early foul trouble, and he still racked up 25 fantasy points. So not to say either of them are consistent or reliable, but I'm going to go with Teletovic because he has more opportunity to be consistent and reliable.
Yeah, I would. It's probably a toss-up for me. I'm not sure who I would pick. Tyreek and J.R. Smith must plays for the value. That is obviously site-specific, but I definitely think that both have extreme upside, especially on FanDuel, where J.R. is 4,400. Mike, your thoughts on J.R. Smith?
Yeah, I don't think you can avoid playing him for 4,400 on FanDuel, especially at the small forward spot. It's a site that doesn't deduct for missed field goals. This is absolutely probably the best price opportunity scoring system. Everything's working together for J.R. Smith on FanDuel.
Bogut or Kamen? I would have to think that their price tags would be different. If not, I would... it'd be hard to fade Bogut tonight, but in that game,
he's not.
Go ahead.
Priced. I mean, they're not priced anywhere. I mean, if you're asking who is a better base for a team, it's got to be Kamen because I really don't think they're priced anywhere the same.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking that we had. I mean, for their price points, I think you would have to go Kamen at value. I just really like where his price is all the way across the site. Holiday at 14%, and then thoughts on Lowry. Dave, I'll let you take those point guard questions. Lowry and Holiday, do you like either of those guys?
I actually don't mind either of them. I actually do like Lowry tonight, and he's a solid mid-range play across the board. But at the same time, as much as I like him tonight, and he's been playing really well lately, as much as I do like him, and as much as I've appreciated his consistency lately, I probably won't have him on any of my teams just because there's options out there for less money that'll probably net the same points.
Yeah.
But you can't go wrong with him. I don't think you can go wrong with him against that, whatever they're going to roll out in New York at point guard.
Reggie, J.J. Hickson, Knight, or Tobias. Tobias is a pretty good option for where his price tag is across most of the sites. I think that before the news came out about Westbrook being out and then Wade being out, opening up the option for KD or LeBron, I think Tobias was more so in play, but still a decent play even for cash games. Mike, you agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, he's an okay play. I mean, he's been playing a ton of minutes lately, and he's someone that I'll probably mix in on my draft street qualifier teams.
He's gonna break. He's gonna break out. He's gonna break out real soon. I can't say it's gonna be tonight, but it's coming. Look what he did last year when he started and logged like 35, 37 minutes per game. There's potential there. There's potential for a big game.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking, for example, he's 5,300 on FanDuel, so he's pretty much hit value at that price 3 games in a row. He's playing, in the mid-30s in minutes. So I think you've got a pretty safe floor there, and if he has that breakout game that Dave's referring to, you're going to get a ton of profit.
Yeah. I just think that he is... If you were looking to go kind of that middle range, Tobias is definitely there as an option. Another Reggie or Chalmers. I would say Reggie. Would any of you guys disagree with that?
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. So we have about 20 more minutes left. I want to show you real quick this tool, and we'll get to some more news. Let me just go ahead and tweet this out. But this is something that we've been working on for a while now. And again, I think if you play daily NBA, this is something that's going to be useful for every day, just basically seeing who hit value and who didn't. So let me go ahead and tweet this out that we are previewing the tool, and then we'll go ahead and check that out. And part of this has to do also with the constant factor that you talk about, Mike, when you talk about value. Can you explain that real quick in a nutshell? How a lot of people have the like a dollars per point or a multiplier like 2x or 3x. Like people say on DraftStreet, like you have to hit 2.25 or 2.5x to get value. But you have this like kind of constant factor that you take the multiplier and then add a fixed number of points.
Right, and the theory behind that is if you just do a price per or points per dollar type of thing, you don't end up with optimal lineup construction, because you get a lot of really cheap, risky guys that are popping up as value plays, and then you have to complement them with really expensive guys that they have a solid amount of high points, but they're not really profitable players. And then you end up with a lower floor, lower ceiling type of thing. So we like to add a constant. So on DraftStreet, if a guy's 5K, if you're just doing 2.5x, he might only need like 12 points. But we say 2x plus 6. There's got to be a base amount of points that he has to reach to even be worth considering. So that would be 16 points, which might not sound like a big difference. But on most nights when there's not injuries, and well, I guess I shouldn't say most nights, there's been injuries popping up all over. But when you don't have these really cheap, really strong value plays, that'll lend you towards taking upside, middle tier price guys and strong matchups across the board, which generally leads itself to a higher ceiling, higher floor type of team.
Yeah, definitely. And what we have coming out is it's sort of simple, but it takes into consideration that fact. And I'll just go ahead and let you guys see it. It's called the Value Report, and what it's going to have is a value chart for the different sites and their salaries. And what you're going to be able to see is a player, and all these columns are sortable, and you're going to be able to see this as soon as their games are over and the box scores are in. So this is an automatic tool. We won't have to do anything manually. But you'll be able to see different multipliers. If you want to factor it in by dollars divided by fantasy point, you can. Honestly, I like either the multiplier or the constant factor that Mike talked about. So you talked about the multiplier, and this is where the tool really has value, pun intended, is that you can see people who went off that you didn't know went off. Unless you're like closely checking all of the box scores, then you're going to miss some players, especially with their price. And as you know, some sites, they are slow with changing their salaries. So what you can do is play them while their salary is still low, or at least mark them down as a potential play, someone that can get hot. So if you look at this, you'll see that Danny Green, this is for the site FanDuel, but Danny Green reached value at 9.2 times what his salary was. He also had 17 more points than what his value threshold was. So that's kind of what Mike was talking about, that constant. So what that is once you reach that, it's everything above there, what it takes into consideration. So if you're looking at the multiplier, you see that Danny Green was the most valuable. However, if you look at the constant, you see that Teague and Chris Paul were the most valuable, and that kind of makes sense. That goes back to what you guys were talking about as far as, Danny Green wasn't the most valuable play last night. It was Kyrie, it was Chris Paul, and it was Jeff Teague. Teague, I was so mad at myself for taking him out and putting Paul in there, and that quickly changed later on that night because you can see he had 72.6 FanDuel points. So, anyways, this is something that we'll be adding on to. You can also sort by minutes to see who played the most and who got a lot of minutes. Anyways, that's what you can do with it. So there you go. That is the value report tool, and just one of the many new tools that we have coming out. Hopefully, you guys will be able to see this next week, and every night you can come to it and just see who hit value and who didn't. So there you go. That would be the value report that we have. Questions, comments, any sort of feedback to that we'll definitely be taking into consideration. So that's our little plug for the value reports that are coming out next week. Should be really cool and should be serviceable for us, talking about who hit value and who didn't. We'll have a date for how many people you can, or for the different dates, different sites where you can go back and check the archives and see on a given day who hit value and who didn't. So with that being said, let's get back to some of the questions that people have. We have about 15 minutes left, so we'll just focus on, I want to focus on the big men, expensive. We haven't really covered who we want to pay for as far as the big men go. As far as Anthony Davis, is there anybody out there that you're looking at, Dave, that you're wanting to pay for tonight?
A power forward or a big man, you're saying?
Yes, a power forward or center, or someone that is small forward eligible, but is really a power forward.
Oh, would you look
yeah.
at that?
Oh yeah. We're pulling out all the stops.
All the stops. I like DeMarcus Cousins, and I know there's always considerable risk when taking him, but I really like him tonight a lot. I mean, against Miami team that, the terrible rebounding front court. Another interesting thing is they allow more steals for centers than any other team, and DeMarcus Cousins leads the league among centers in steals this year. Just a little interesting stat there. But I like him tonight, and I'm willing to pay for him on sites where he isn't way overpriced. But when it comes to him or LeBron James, there's no question I'm going to go with LeBron in this one. But someone like Kevin Durant, I feel like I'm going to stay away from him tonight because I can get some guys cheaper, and I think we can expect similar, if not better, production from him.
What about you, Mike? And don't let them hate on your grandma's sweater that she knitted for you.
This is an Allen Houston throwback jersey. You guys cannot be messing around with this. That's my contribution. I was too busy arguing with Davis in the chat to talk about expensive power forwards or really big small forwards.
Are you on the Cousins train?
I think he's. Oh my God, I can't speak. I was going through his game log. I've talked about this on this show before because I'm kind of obsessed with it. But Cousins has some of the most consistently high fantasy point outputs when he's playing, 35 plus minutes. I mean, he's just right up there with anyone. That's why I usually have him as the top play at center when I write the rundown, almost regardless. And he's a guy that I will definitely try and squeeze in on a couple of draft street qualifier teams, and that's a site where he's really expensive, and I still want to capture that upside. I wouldn't play him on a main team. The only site I might play him on a main team is DraftKings because they refuse to raise his price. But yeah, as long as this game's somewhat competitive, he's going to score, I think 40 fantasy points.
Yeah, I don't mind Cousins, and AD is a guy who I don't think I'm sold on as much as everybody else is, because I think that he still has risk. For even though his price tag isn't where it was at the beginning of the season, he still is perfectly capable of getting 2 fouls in the first 5 minutes or just not showing up. Like that game against Sacramento, I was expecting more out of him than what he gave.
Which game?
And he had like 4 points in the first 8 minutes and like 1 rebound. It was terrible. So, I don't know. Anthony Davis, it's not that I hate him. I think on certain sites you have to play him. But I'm just not as sold on him as much as I think you two are or other people in the industry.
Well, it's a really funny predicament because you look at his
It's
price.
not funny at all, Dave. It really is not. It's serious.
Hilarious. It's hilarious. And you look at his price tag, and I think you put the rose-colored glasses on because you can't really avoid saying, "Oh my God, look how cheap this guy is," and everyone's remembering that upside that he had, myself included. But everyone's remembering, his contributions earlier in the season where he was pacing the Kevin Durant's and LeBron James of the world. So, I mean, he has been subpar by his own standards, but it's really hard to avoid him on sites where he's that cheap because the 60 fantasy point game is going to come, and if you miss it, you're going to be left out, and you're probably not going to cash.
Yeah, I mean, he's priced on some sites where his average game this season has him hitting value. I mean, that's pretty rare to find a guy priced at that point. So that mitigates a ton of risk. Then on top of that, you throw in a dream matchup against Denver. I think they're last or near the bottom of the league in defensive efficiency against power forwards, and I see absolutely no reason to fade Anthony Davis tonight, at least not on FanDuel, DraftKings, I think even DraftDay. Draft Street maybe, but even there at $18K with all the value elsewhere, and he's averaging 39 points per game on Draft Street, I don't see why you would fade him. It just seems
that's
like
a great point. No, it's a great point because you have you look at the $9,100 price tag on FanDuel and say, oh well, that's pretty good regardless of matchup. But then we're always willing to pay a little bit extra for guys when the matchup is perfect. And this matchup with Denver, who's 29th in defensive efficiency against them, like you said, and then they've allowed the second most fantasy points to the position. So, I mean, but the thing is he playing center right now? I believe he's playing center right now.
It depends on Jason Smith is playing or not.
I mean, they're pretty poor against bigs in general. I mean, yes, their defensive efficiency numbers look a little bit better versus centers than they do against power forwards, but either way, I think he's going to tear them apart. They give up a lot of points, a lot of rebounds to bigs. And, I mean, just going back to that price, I mean, how many guys are priced at a point where they hit value, period, on FanDuel? There's not a lot of guys that are even priced like that at all. And then you get a guy who's for sure going to play a lot of minutes and has an amazing matchup. I mean,
well, you know what it is? The guy has 21 or more points in 3 games since returning from injury. The reason his numbers, I'm telling you, the reason this guy's numbers are not where they were earlier in the season is because he's not getting the same amount of blocks as he was. He only has 2 blocks since returning, where before, he's averaging 4 or 5 blocks a game, 6 blocks a game at home. So, I mean, he has 21 points, and he has double-doubles in 2 and 3, and the one that he didn't, he had 9 rebounds. So those numbers aren't really that low. But when he's not recording those blocks, which gave him probably, 8 extra fantasy points per game, it really does make a significant difference in his final line.
Right, and that's why I like playing priced with him, because those blocks and steals aren't necessarily easy to predict. So you catch him on a swing where he hasn't had a lot of blocks and steals, and the price comes down because they're going to come eventually. So now he's priced to not get those blocks and steals. He can hit value without them, and if he gets them, he's going to crush it.
Exactly, and that's especially with the matchup. He's a solid play tonight.
And going back to Dink's, hometown score in New Orleans, Anthony Davis has been on the road all 3 games. Now he gets at home with a more favorable score. Maybe he gets a block or steal extra because of that. I think it just all works together. It makes sense to play him tonight everywhere.
Now, what if him and Cousins are the same price?
I think I'm going Anthony Davis, but I don't think they are the same price anyway.
On a couple sites.
Are they? I'm going Anthony Davis, but I wouldn't fight you to death on it.
I'd go Cousins.
I'll
think.
fight you to death on it.
I'd go Cousins. I want to read if you don't go there already, especially if you're playing on our sponsor DraftDay. If you go to DraftDay and click the strategy article, Scott Melwig at sports_25 to life has a great article the day before tomorrow, and he has Anthony Davis as a lock and also has Cousins as Drummond as his big men. So I will read to you in Scott's voice what he says about Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis's price is slowly going to creep back to where it should be, nearing Kevin Love, so I'm going to keep playing him nightly until it gets there. He has a great matchup tonight with the Nuggets, who have killed inside all season. Who have been killed, sorry. He should also pick up some minutes and shots with both Eric Gordon likely out and Jason Smith questionable. So
that's dead on accurate. Oh my God, that was perfect.
Right?
Perfect.
I did see Saving Mr. Banks last night, so sometimes that happens where I speak like the movie that I watch. It's a couple-day thing. This isn't nearly as bad as Avatar when I was speaking like the Na'vi. That was a bad phase for sure. We have Mike, who is in the computer. Mike, what are you looking at right there?
In his computer.
Just always taking care of customer problems. I'm a man of the people.
Oh, I thought you look like really intent, like you were studying, like something just broke, and you were looking at what just happened. But no,
I get easily distracted. I'm sorry.
That's not the case.
When you have someone mimicking a British accent across the computer, I don't know how you can get distracted.
Well, I laughed for a little while.
Jameer or Reggie Jackson? Thoughts on Jameer? We haven't really talked about him tonight. Before all this news came out, I thought he was a decent value play. Now it's like, do we even mess with him?
I don't know. He's so cheap on FanDuel I was looking at. But, I'm definitely not messing with him on Draft Street, I know. Probably not, but he's pretty cheap. I wouldn't rule him out on FanDuel, but there's just so many options.
Yeah. It's like who can fit in that last piece, that last piece of the puzzle.
I just put together a sweet FanDuel lineup, but it doesn't have Trey Burke. I just can't quite afford him, and it makes me really sad. So
just put it in like the Slam or something. And
I went to and it was filled. I was really pissed. That's exactly what I was gonna do.
Put him in the utility spot. Oh wait, never mind.
I really wanted to just enter this into a GPP, and unless I have my filters screwed up or something, I don't see one even available right now.
No, I just entered on FanDuel about 5 minutes ago while Dave was doing his thing. And
so there
was the $1 dribbler. There was nothing left. They fill up the night before. It's ridiculous.
I guess I'll play this $5 GPP with it and then be really sad when it does well and wins 10 times my money, but then I lose with all my main teams.
Thought the exact same one, or the exact same thing. I'm in the $2,000 assist number 2.
Yeah, I just joined that one.
Or you could play on our sponsor DraftDay where they do have tournaments and there is spots left. So that could be another option.
Boom! Look at that product place. Great job, Dave. I'm impressed.
Thanks. I did it myself.
Next time, do it with the accent.
All right, well, we're going to go play the Rapid Fire. Hello, Mrs. Rapid Fire, Max.
Jeez.
Al Jefferson or Eric Bledsoe?
Bledsoe.
Yeah, I'm going Bledsoe, too.
Not even close. Bledsoe all day, son. Curry versus Durant.
Curry.
Curry.
You guys are cray-cray, especially
Durant.
without Russell.
No, I'm switching. Durant.
Yeah.
Durant.
Without, I forgot about Westbrook.
Oh, who's backpedaling now? Who is backpedaling now?
I never said I'm going Curry. I just said I forgot about Westbrook. I'm going Curry.
Backpedaling.
Yeah, Grandma's boy's backpedaling big time, though.
I'm going Curry.
You can hurl all the insults you want at me, Dave, but I'm going with Durant.
Pencil it in, fellas.
Wall
Stephen Curry.
versus AD.
Who?
AD all day.
Wall versus Anthony Davis.
AD.
Anthony Davis. Wall plays a lot worse on the road.
Had over, I think, 50 fantasy points against Minnesota last time. I'm not buying the home road splits. I'm also not buying.
He only had 14 points though. Like, I know he had 16 assists, but he shot like 35% or something like that. So I think that line's a little bit deceiving. I like him tonight, but I think Anthony Davis is a better option if we're going to go head to head like that.
Well, he probably is the safer option, but then again, I like to live on the dangerous side. Yes, I do. And so that's why I will choose John Wall. Anthony Davis is he just has too much baggage for me. I think Wall has a big game tonight. And I'm the guy, I don't mean to float my boat, because honestly, humility is probably my biggest attribute that I have going for me right now.
Float your boat? You don't mean to... Excuse me?
He's floating his own boat.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
Okay. Well, anyways.
You can toot your horn.
Irregardless.
I'm going to toot my horn as I'm floating my own boat. So I have been like 5 out of 5, the rapid fire, the past 5 nights. Not like 5 out of 5 picks, but at least 3 out of 5 the past 5 nights. So
that would have been pretty epic.
I think it's clear which choice they're going to choose. Andre Drummond versus David Lee. We're all on Drummond.
Drummond.
We are?
Don't you dare, Dave.
Or David Lee?
You're going David Lee?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. This one is a typical Scott matchup right here. J.R. Smith versus Tyreek Evans.
Tyreek.
Yep, I agree. But it kind of looks like one of those booby twaps. So there you go. That's the rapid fire max. And if you haven't, go play at our sponsor DraftDay. Sign up. Use the links in the homepage that we have. I did get a question. Only one center on FanDuel. Can you still use Mozgov in 50-50 cash games?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you can. Especially with all the other value out there.
Just because there's only one available position doesn't mean that he has to be. It doesn't mean that he has to be a stud.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to construct your roster. Mozgov or Kamen.
You're going to open up so much elsewhere, and especially with quality at other positions, there's no reason to lay off of him tonight. Especially, another thing is centers aren't really that stacked tonight. I mean, there's some good options, but there's nothing that jumps out at you where you got to play them. So I always like to play value plays at one of the weakest positions on the night, because you're not going to get burned by other players if they tend to go off and you passed up on them for a value play.
Agreed.
We have some more questions in the chat. We'll try to answer them as quickly as we can. And some comments. Devo Brain says, seems like Curry hasn't had a monster game since Iggy came back. Also, someone noted earlier that the Suns were number 1 against the three-point shot. That does not apply tonight against Steph Curry. With all the value that we're talking about, going value or going expensive at shooting guard and going Steph, and even going like a Steph Bledsoe combo, getting really sexy with it, and going expensive at the shooting guard and small forward spot is It is a option that I would highly recommend. Do you agree with that, Mike? You kind of had that look on your face.
Oh, someone was asking about Lakers in the chat that I didn't like. That's what the look was for.
Oh.
No, I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of value at point guard. We talked about value at center. And, yeah, spend at shooting guard and small forward. Curry's not shooting guard on FanDuel. That would be nice. But he is on DraftDay and DraftKings, correct?
Yes, he is. So that's what I'm saying. Those sites.
And he doesn't. I think the 3-point concern. I think 3-point defense is much more of a concern in terms of Clay Matthews, who really makes his living from behind the line. But Curry.
You said Clay Matthews.
Clay.
Sorry. Couldn't help
Clay
ourselves.
Thompson. My apologies.
We're like children, any little misspoken word.
Yeah, I'm an AJ Hawk fan anyways.
It was really, really stupid, right? But anyway, Clay Matthews, he from behind the 3-point line, you just caught that, huh? No, but Stephen Curry's going to be fine regardless. He hit 4 threes against Phoenix last week, and he still put up 50 fantasy points, 30 points. He even came close to a triple-double, so I don't think that's much of a concern. He can produce from anywhere.
Mike is just spreading all sorts of knowledge and wisdom in the chat. We had a few more questions. Hayward or Evans? We haven't really talked about Derek Favors tonight, but he and Hayward have been options. I'm high on Favors, not so much on Hayward, but it's not like he's going to be a bad play. Thoughts on Hayward versus Evans? I think you'd have to go Evans.
I'm going Hayward for the same price. Hayward.
What? Okay, Dave. You be the tiebreaker.
I think I'm gonna go Evans, but only because he's been playing incredibly well lately, and he's gonna see a lot of minutes tonight. But I like both of them. You can't go wrong with either. I'm kind of tied up on that one.
I'm with you. I love Derek Favors. The Lakers have slipped all the way dead last in the NBA in rebounding rate. Powell's out. I think he's going to blow up, and he's at a price where he doesn't need to blow up, so you've got a little bit of leeway there.
Yeah, agree. Terrence Ross, 6%. Any thoughts? My thoughts are, if you want to play him in a GPP, go for it. What's that?
Who is that?
Terrence Ross. T. Ross.
Nah, there's no need to play him tonight. J.R. Smith's 4,400 on FanDuel. If you play Terrence Ross, expect to find yourself at the bottom.
Dang!
Watch. Terrence Ross is going to go off tonight. I hyped him up a couple weeks ago, and he went off, and he hasn't done anything since. But watch, because I said that, play him. He's going to go off tonight.
That was like some Godfather stuff that you just dropped. Like, if you want to play Ross, you're going to find yourself at the bottom. Can you? You do kind of have the Godfather voice. Can you do the Godfather impression?
I think you took that out of context, Dave. But I'll let you roll with it.
Sleeps with the fishes.
Can you do a Godfather impression for us, Dave?
Unfortunately, no. I'm
yes,
not really.
You can. You got to work on that.
I'm not as good as with my accents and imitations as you are. But no, I think Ross. He's not a terrible play, but he's the kind of guy that I don't try. Like you said earlier, everyone needs to come up big tonight for your team. Everyone needs to hit value. Terrence Ross is either going to exceed value or he's going to be far below value, and that's the problem. Look, he put 23 points out the other night, but then he'll drop 5 points. So he's not worth the risk tonight when you can play someone that's a lot safer. That's all I was saying. Not saying you're going to die.
I can't go from British to Godfather accent in the same show. Like, the interwebs would just break completely, so I'll avoid.
No, fortunately, nobody asked you to.
You're asking in the chat. Do the Godfather with a British accent. That's an offer you can't refuse, Dave.
I'll make you an offer you cannot refuse. Let's get to, real quick, since we've already spent too much of the show
when you
on
upload
accents.
this on YouTube, cut that out of it.
Oh, screw your bucks. That's what I like to say. Speaking of a question, Henson And J.R. Smith versus Lee or Teletovic. I think you have to go the Lee way. Speaking of leeway, I'm going to give you guys some questions, and I want you to answer them really quick. I'm going to say the question, say your name. You're acting kind of crazy. Not calling me baby. Why the sudden change? And then you are going to respond back with just 1 or 2 words.
So you want me to say my name, and then...
When no one is around you, say, baby, I love you. Okay.
You want us to talk about Milwaukee for 5 minutes each?
No. Mike. Duran, Bledsoe, and DMC, or Reggie, Bledsoe, and Love. So, Duran or DMC, or Reggie and Love?
The first one.
Okay. Let's see. Kemba Walker or Dragic? Dave.
Walker.
AD and D. Lee or Cousins and Vucci. Mike.
Oh man, that's a really tough one. First one.
Okay, you kind of went over the words limit again. Let's reel it in. Is Caron Butler in play? Dave.
So I was nah, he's not in play.
I would agree. Let's see. Tim Hardaway Jr.
No.
Dave?
If it was a 2-game slate.
You guys are crazy. Oh, man, you're hilarious.
Yeah,
This is a 2-game slate. Woo. DMC or Brow? Dave?
Thanks, Mike.
Mozgov, Chalmers, or Kamen and Middleton? Mike?
Mozgov with the Guardians and Chalmers.
It's got to be Mozgov and Chalmers. Mozgov and LeBron, or Drummond and Smith? Dave?
Mozgov, LeBron.
Agree. Bargs versus old team, no Melo, yes or no? Mike?
Wait, what was the question?
Bargs versus his old team, and there's no Melo.
Maybe if you want to like really be low percentage in a draft street qualifier, but definitely not on a main team.
What he means is maybe if you want to lose, and
I'll throw him in one DS qualifier, but that's it.
Dragic and Favors or Burke and Lee? Whew, I think you have to go Burke and Lee on that. Jameer, Duran, Amir at the utility spot. Pick one, Dave.
Jameer, Duran, and who?
Amir.
That's Darren.
Ooh, it's a tongue twister. I guess Duran.
It is Darren, but I always say Duran. I always say it.
That's what you screwed me up before. I thought you were saying Durant, but not. I didn't know what you were saying.
Wait, you're asking Duran Williams, right?
Yeah, Darren, as his mom calls him.
Well, then why'd you call him Duran?
I said I messed up. I said it, okay? Ariza and Bledsoe or Smith and Hayward?
Smith and Hayward.
Smith and Hayward.
Me too.
All right. Hayward mistype. Thank you for correcting that. D. Will, yes. So, anyways, that will do it for the questions for today. Luckily, we didn't have any questions about Al Farouk Aminu, and that's good because you would probably not enjoy the pronunciation that Mike would give. Dave, they can reach you at Laffy_D, and you also write articles for the Fake Basketball, and then for our site on Friday, one of my favorite articles of the day. And then you also have Mike Leone at Leonum4444 from Roto Experts, and you guys have a free trial.
Yeah, that's right. If you go to rotoexperts.com/daily, you'll see a little ad on the right with a Santa Claus holding a basketball. If you click there, you can try our stuff for free through the first. We got site-specific cheat sheets and an analysis about 5 pages long each day, very in-depth. And I will also post the link right now in the chat.
Well, there you go. Such a dear to do
Mike.
that for us. So that's been the Friday show. It's been good to be back with you guys. Like, Haven't had a show since Monday. That's what's up. It's
Wow.
it's fun.
Well, you got the right guys.
Yeah, I did. You're right.
Right.
I do have the right guys. So stick around in the chat, talk, have fun, enjoy tonight, take some stuff down. Go over to DraftDay. They still have some tournaments ready there. And all I'm going to say is Chris Kamen and Jordan Farm are on DraftDay. And Reggie Jackson. All three of those guys are in play. You want to get them in your lineup. Trey Burke also in play. So take that for what it's worth. Hit us up on our YouTube channel at or youtube.com/Fantasy Insiders, and then also on Twitter, of course, at InsidersDFS. I think that'll do it, guys. Thanks.
All right, fellas.
Thanks for having us, Dave.
No, thank you for being on.
Oh, always enjoyable.
Yes, it is. It really is. So that'll do it. We'll see you guys later. Later.